Welcome to Conservative Solutions for Our Common Challenges. I'm Dan Albus, Member of Parliament for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna. That's in the beautiful British Columbia interior. And this podcast is all about the people who are stepping up with real ideas to tackle the issues that Canadians face every day. In each episode, we sit down with individuals both inside and outside the Canadian Parliament who are putting forward practical, thoughtful solutions. Not making the headlines, not making noise, but just putting in the work. The ideas, their experience, and the perseverance behind efforts to make life better for Canadians right across this great country. I got into politics to solve problems for my country and for my community. And meeting with like-minded people inspires me, and I hope it'll inspire you too. Today, I'm joined by someone who embodies the spirit of service and determination. Todd Doherty is the Member of Parliament for Cariboo Prince George, and he's become known as a national champion for his relentless advocacy on mental health, for 988, which we'll go into in detail, and for his work on frontline focused legislation like his private member's bill C-321. Todd is someone who brings heart, grit, and a deep sense of duty to everything he does. Todd, thank you for being here today. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. And it's an honor to be here.
Great. So before we get into all the great stuff that you've been known for, first of all, how are you? What's keeping you busy?
Man, we're doing good. We're doing well. We've got a 5-year-old granddaughter that keeps us running, and I never knew that my heart could swell so much. We have four children that we love very dearly, but our granddaughter is just an amazing gift to us.
Awesome. Well, you got to be careful about that heart getting too big, because
right.
They might have to operate. Now,
right.
Before we get into some of the big issues we're facing in terms of, that you're known for, in terms of gaps in healthcare and mental health, when you look back at the beginning, Todd, what was the moment or experience that really made you decide that public life was where you needed to be?
I can honestly say there wasn't a single moment that made me, that drove me to run. It was, it was a combination of wanting to serve our community, wanting to affect real change, and hopefully leave a positive legacy nationally.
Wow. So when you first got elected and you flew into Ottawa, you come up to see the Peace Tower, the flag, what hit you first as a member of Parliament?
Wow. So not being political beforehand, I really wasn't, I'd say, astute in politics, and really didn't know a lot about what went on. I mean, I did a lot of work here in my previous career representing Canada, but I wasn't political in any sense of the word. So when I got here, they give us that pin and they say, it gives you access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, so that you can represent your constituents, right? That's parliamentary privilege. And I tested it out at about 3 a.m. one night. I went through Center Block and I just wanted to see if I truly had access to it. And as I wandered the halls, the magnitude of this and the responsibility that was placed on our, and the amount of sacrifice that the volunteers, because I was a nobody, ran, and the trust that our constituents put in us, it hit me at about 3:30 in the morning, just outside the Library of Parliament. I started bawling. An ugly crying. I've cried so much in Parliament. I wear my heart on my sleeve, but really that responsibility and the magnitude of this job and the honor that it was just hit me. And so there I was, just outside of the Library of Parliament in one of the alcoves, and I'm ugly crying, probably kind of snot and tears and what have you. And there's a tap on my shoulder, and it's one of the guards that's there with a Kleenex, and he whispers to me, he goes, "Happens all the time." And so that's probably, the thing that will always stick out in my mind. And the honor of sitting in Center Block. You were on our plane as you and Elizabeth May were the first members of Parliament that I met after being elected. It's just It's amazing. It really is. Yeah, it sticks with me all the time.
So someone who came to politics, as you said, just not knowing politics, a bit of an outsider, being
Very much
hard on
so.
sleeve,
Yeah.
where you are today.
Yeah.
Has your purpose changed?
No, not at all. No, I landed here with, I landed here with 3 bills already drafted and already ready to go, or the kind of the framework for pieces of bills that I wanted to work on. One was, or the one that we actually moved forward with, was C211 for Canada to develop a national framework on post-traumatic stress disorder. The brave men and women who put their uniforms on every day to either serve our community, serve our country, they see, hear, and experience things that can't be erased from the memory. Very often, the quietest moments are the loudest for those who are struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. And so we wanted to make sure that Canada could be on the leading front of that. And so we pushed forward for Canada to develop a national framework with respect to post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm proud to say that in 2017, that bill passed, and it made Canada the first country in the world to develop that and to really be on the forefront of mental wellness for those who serve our country.
So this relentless focus on those who protect us, because I see that common thread in your work.
Yeah.
Where would you say that comes from?
So I did a lot of work in my previous career and previous life with, whether it's first responders or military or veterans. I went to school for social work long ago. I did crisis intervention and suicide prevention for teens and at-risk youth on the streets in British Columbia in the late 80s. I'm dating myself now. So I've always had that. I carried the training that I had, the schooling that I had, and my passion for mental health and mental wellness throughout all my career. And so when I landed here, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to continue doing that.
Wow. So tell us about 988.
Yeah. So
how did you get onto 988, and where did that come from? And maybe just start with that.
Well, you're probably going to make me cry. When I was 14, my best friend took his life. And, I was the last one to see him. And, I relived that, even to this day, I relived that night over and over again. I wish he knew how much he was loved. I wish, when we said goodbye that night, that I could just say, hey, I love you, and our world is a better place because you're in it. We never knew that he was hurting. We never knew that he was struggling. And since that time, I've lost so many friends and relatives and to suicide. And it is truly, we have a crisis with respect to suicide in our country. 13 Canadians die by suicide every day. A further 250 attempt it. That's 91,000 Canadians. And so we need to do whatever we can to break down those barriers, because talking about mental health or saying, you know what, I'm not okay, there's a stigma attached to that. And it doesn't matter who you are. We need to break those barriers down, and help needs to be available wherever you are, wherever a Canadian is, wherever somebody is struggling, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, as I said, I did social work and crisis and counseling and suicide prevention back in the 80s. And there's, a 1-800 number or a local number that would go to a local crisis line. And as long as I've been in the business, I still can't remember that number. And so very similar to 911, when we were doing our work with C211 and working with our cohorts down in the US, they were just going through their push to get 988 into the United States. And so we took kind of lessons learned from there, and we decided to try and push it here. And so It was December 13th of 2020. We tabled the motion within the House and got unanimous consent to move it forward. And they passed it. Parliament passed it. But it took us over 1,000 days to get it.
So what was the biggest hurdle, though, to go from that idea, right, and make it into a reality? What was the biggest hurdle through it? Was it the political side? Was it convincing people?
No, the biggest hurdle was politics of it. It's not a partisan thing for me, and it shouldn't be for anybody. But sadly, there was some politics taking place. They all said the right things when the cameras were on, and during question period, the health minister all said the right things, or the minister said all the right things. But behind closed doors, there was political hot potato going on, a lot of bartering back and forth to try to hold it ransom and what have you. But at the end of the day, and to be honest as well too, CRTC had to get their ducks in a row to be able to offer it 24 hours a day. Who's going to staff it? We wanted to make sure that if somebody was struggling, that they weren't going to get, and they dialed 988, they weren't going to get like a, press 1 and leave your name and number or what have you, get a voicemail, that they actually get a live person 24 hours a day. And so, as we sit today, almost over a million Canadians have used 988, called or text since November in 2023 when it went live.
So someone can just simply text to 988.
Yeah.
And someone will get back to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like right away.
Right away.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are some of the impacts you've heard? I'm sure people.
Yeah. Again, I get emotional talking about it. Over the holidays, I had a gentleman walk up to me in a grocery store, and he thanked me. Said, "I'm alive today because of you," and I said, "Well, you're a little caught off guard," and he said, "I called 988, and I got the help I needed." And we get a lot of calls and messages of that way. We also get calls and messages that of people saying thank you, that 988 maybe has come too late for their loved one or their friend, that they wish that it had been there. So they thank us for the effort and making sure that we're getting it forward. But, sadly, as I said, we still have 13 Canadians that die by suicide every day. And 91,000 Canadians every year attempt it. And so we still have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Canada desperately needs to develop a national strategy in suicide prevention, and that's something that we'll be pushing forward.
Okay, good. So when it comes to some of your other work, Bill C-321.
Yeah.
So maybe explain to the folks that are watching what C-321 was.
Yeah.
And what you were trying to do.
Yeah, how far we have fallen where a nurse can be punched or kicked or knocked out when they're simply trying to help you, or a first responder or a police officer stabbed and killed while just trying to help someone, or a firefighter that is attacked while trying to put out a burning building. The one story that really got us working on this was I got messaged through my personal Facebook, and it said, "Mr. Doherty, you don't know who I am, but I'm so grateful for the work that you did on C211. But let me tell you the reason why I'm not able to go back to work." And it was a paramedic in and around Toronto that had done a call into a residence, a personal residence, and the victim's family that she was trying to administer help to threw her down the stairs and then broke her ankles, both of her ankles, stomped on her and broke both the ankles, and like did horrific things to her, and said, as horrific as my story is, my colleagues go through this and so much other stuff every day. And something has to be done about the violence that's being perpetuated against first responders and nurses and healthcare workers. And so we moved forward. We did a lot of work working with the Canadian Nurses Union, the firefighters, the International Association of Firefighters. It's their number one ask.
Yes.
For 10 years, their number one ask, for the last 6 years anyways, their number one ask was to try and help with the violence against first responders. And so we've been pushing forward with it. In last Parliament, it passed unanimously. C-321 passed the House and passed Senate. But then Parliament was dissolved. A dissolution of Parliament took place, and it just fell off the order of paper. So when we came through the last election, and it still remained, the bill still remained in Parliament at the Senate level. So Senator Husakus reintroduced it as S-233 and worked collaboratively across the floor and managed to get it passed unanimously. And so where it sits today, we've tried a number of times to get the House to recognize it and pass it all levels and make it law. But again, we've got some political hot potato that's going on. And so on Wednesday of this week, February 4th, we'll be going into debate. So we'll have to debate the bill all over again. But it's been studied. It was studied in the last Parliament, which is where the 321 was born out of. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to take my stance or my demeanor when I'm presenting it, because I'm frustrated. It means we could have passed it before Christmas, and it will act as a deterrent to this. And we are literally, every day that we delay, the lives of our first responders and healthcare workers and our nurses. I mean, the violence that's being perpetuated against them is unbelievable.
Yes. It's almost every other week you see about someone who's just trying to do their job, and they get hurt for it.
Yep. It's shameful how far we've fallen.
So the bill itself changes the criminal code.
Right. It at sentencing, it amends the criminal code at sentencing to make it an aggravating factor at sentencing that the victim of the violence, if the victim of violence was a healthcare worker, nurse or paramedic, or first responder. And so we're hoping that stiffer sentences will come out of this, and that it will act as a deterrent for those who are doing this.
Yeah, when I met with my international or IAFF local West Kelowna, they said this was their number one ask.
It is.
So we've read stories about nurses, someone's on drugs, hurts them, or goes into rage, etc. So what would happen in cases of a firefighter?
Yeah. So we've got stories. So firefighters can't. They can't say. They have to report to. They can't go and say it's too dangerous. We're not responding. Mm-hmm. They are obligated. They have to go forward into whatever situation is presented. And so we have heard stories of firefighters that are beaten. We have heard stories of firefighters that are, because a lot of times the firefighters are also the paramedics in different jurisdictions, where they're having to wear bulletproof vests, shot at, stabbed. It's unbelievable, beaten up.
Just for doing their jobs.
Just for doing their jobs, and it's shocking.
So speaking about, you said political hot potatoes.
Yeah.
So what have been the biggest challenges and the biggest bright spots in bringing this bill forward through the Senate?
Oh, well, number one, seeing that, I think when you see a nurse, or you see somebody that just wants to be there for their community, whether it's a paramedic or a first responder or a nurse or a healthcare worker, and they're so thankful that we have brought this forward. So thankful. I mean, they're emotional because they live it every day, and or their colleagues are getting beat up and what have you. They see it every day. The frustrating thing is that this is totally nonpartisan. we've told the other side, look, I don't care. Like, I don't need to take credit for it. You can stand up in the House and ask for unanimous consent. The Liberals can, or whoever, and take, and move this along. We just want to move this forward. I think what heartens me is when you saw the Senate come together and work collaboratively to move it forward. What's frustrating for me is that the government on this other side, as a matter of fact, when I said to them just before Christmas, I said, we can do this. This is good news, and we can give this hope to, the tens of thousands of first responders and nurses all across our country that are facing this. We can give them hope. I said, the message I got back was, I guess they're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. Literally. And it absolutely is shocking for me when you hear that kind of callous answer.
So the politics are holding it back,
Yeah.
But it won't hold forever.
No.
So you're hopeful. You have literally a brigade
Yeah.
of voices
Yeah.
that are right beside you. You're right beside
100%.
them,
Yeah.
still fighting for that. So what's the next step then?
Well, we start the debate on first reading or second reading, I guess, this week, and I guess it'd be first reading, and then we'll go from there, and hopefully we can fast track it out of this after this first reading.
Well, I think everyone that's probably watching agrees.
Yeah, I hope
want to
so.
see this.
Yeah.
Now, just someone who's been here in Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
if you could fix one challenge in our politics, what would it be?
I think the glacial speed that Parliament works. I mean, not so much the MPs or what have you, but when you're working to try to move on something that actually can make such a difference, it just bureaucracy kind of moves at a glacial speed, right? And it can move fast. We've seen it move fast in response during COVID and what have you, but a lot of times things just get mired down, and it gets mired down on just stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, I hope this bill takes off like a light this week. And
I appreciate it.
People put aside all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So if you could fix one challenge in your riding,
Right.
specifically, because I know you're a
Yeah.
big champion for your home
Yeah.
and for your community and all the people around it in your region, what would it be?
Find jobs for the tens of thousands of British Columbians, not just my riding, but our province. Tens of thousands of British Columbians that are out of work because of the forestry crisis that we have. Those are good paying jobs that have been lost just before Christmas. The 3 months leading up to Christmas, we lost probably 2,000 jobs just in the Caribou area. But in our province, we've lost, I think, over 42 mills, 11 of those in my riding. Those are good paying jobs. And when those jobs go, so do the people. And we can't get them back. And so we need to find a way to retain those families in our region. The only way we can do that is good paying jobs.
So someone who's works so hard, and we meet every Wednesday morning as a caucus, and I know you're always looking to champion that next new cause because they're all related. Because one piece of one bill, one process leads to another.
Yeah.
You find all these gaps. So what do you think is the next big gap that you think Todd Doherty MP needs to tackle?
So an issue that touches, I know touches both of us is cancer treatment, cancer care. I think as a nation, we need to be looking at how we deal with terminal illnesses. So to get for the life of me now, the term escapes me, but get a strategy, a national strategy on how we deal with diseases such as cancer, ALS, diabetes, all these illnesses that, because we are a small country, we're vast in geography, but our numbers are smaller. Very often, those who are struggling with these diseases are not able to, are eligible for trials. And I think we have to have a coordinated effort on how we can do that and make sure that Canadians are struggling with rare disease.
Yeah, rare disease,
Rare disease.
and pediatric clinical trials.
100%.
Sometimes I'll look at the stats, and I may be using a little bit outdated, but in some cases we'll have 1 or 2 U.S. states that have more children participating in a clinical trial than the whole country.
Yeah.
And it is something that I'm really worried about, because if you don't have those clinical trials, and especially someone's described it to me as the postal code lottery.
Yes.
If you're close to a place that does genetic testing, that has access to specialty treatments, you're just so much better off. Well, that's excellent. Well, maybe we can work together on that in the Cancer Caucus.
So rare disease strategies is the word that I was looking for, the term that I was looking for. We absolutely need to do that. I think that's something as we move forward.
Yeah, small populations spread out. I know.
Yeah.
I'll be there to help you with that. So finally, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think Canadians should understand about your work, Todd?
No, I think that I'm just so appreciative of the kindness that Canadians from coast to coast have shown us. I think that there's more that we need to do on the mental health front. We need to view mental health in parity with physical health. That there's so much that has to go into that. I think the biggest thing I want Canadians to know is that if they're struggling, that help is out there. And as conservatives, we push for hope.
We push for hope.
We believe that hope's always possible, right? Recovery is always possible. So,
thank you, Todd. Really appreciate you joining us.
I appreciate this. This is great.